Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Just a quick disclaimer because I was not planning on uploading a video this week, but apparently I'm starting today. It was on down the line, so this is not up to my standard of YouTubeism, but I hope that it is helpful. I felt like this was going to be really helpful in this form, so thanks for tuning in, and let me know in the comments what you thought. Please subscribe, and make sure you subscribe also to our website at www.outsidethebound.com. Thank you. Bye.
When I think of walls, I think of something that prevents us from having access to something that's on the other side. I think of something that's usually large and impermeable, something really, really difficult to get through without another structure that opens. When you think of walls, it's like anything that blocks or encloses something else. And it's really easy to picture this in a literal sense. It's really easy for us to identify what a physical wall is. We know that, we have walls in our home to protect us and to give us privacy and things like that. But what about the walls that we have in our lives? What about the walls that we have in our hearts and in our emotions, in our minds? Those walls are more figurative and sometimes a little bit more difficult to identify. Oftentimes, when we start to talk about those walls, people begin to get offensive, and for good reason. Like, I understand it. People almost are attached to their walls. I know for a while I was. We get attached to the thing that we feel is protecting us, or the thing that feel has been built because something else hurt us. So these walls that we have in a literal, more figurative sense are more on the defensive or offensive side. People don't really want to talk about them. They get offended when they're brought up, or when you're asking, like, why don't you let your walls down, or why do you have these walls up, or why won't you let anybody in? That's like the offensive question. So when I start to go through that, I wonder, like, why do we even have walls? Like, what's the reason? What's the purpose of these walls? And while I understand it from like life sense and what has happened in life and why people tend to build it, I really just wanted to go through and explore the reasons we have walls. So when I started to think about it, I was like, well, we didn't always have walls. There was a time when in our lives where we were very trusting, or we were very open, and we were very honest, and we were very here and present, and then life happens and something or someone shows us that we're not safe, and in order to protect ourselves, we need to build something to keep us in a space that's able to be controlled by ourselves, by us, because we believe in this moment that we are the best protectors of ourselves, because our environment has not done a great job. And so we start to build walls. And at first, when you start to build it, it's not as strong as it is once it's been continually built. And these walls become continually built when further disappointment happens, when further people let you down, when people continue to prove the reason for your walls. And it's something that we have to kind of look at, because it's like, okay, we're building these walls to protect ourselves. And I know for me, like, it was really to the point where it was almost like this angry defense. It was almost like this, I don't have time to even play these games with anybody. I don't trust you. I don't want to trust you. You're not going to do anything for me. So that's where we're starting. Like, that was my wall. That's your starting point, is I just don't trust you. So where do we go from here? And like, moving forward and growing and trying to live and thrive with that was not working. It was not. And I remember my one of my previous mentors, one of my pastors was telling me that, Andrea, you can't grow like that. You're not only shutting people out, but you're also keeping yourself in. You're also enclosing yourself to the world. And I was like, what? No, I'm not. I was like, no, I control this. Like, I control who I allow in, who I allow out. Like, it's on me. Like, no, like, you don't have that much control over life. The walls make you think you do, but you don't. So I had to start thinking about that, and I had to really deal with that, because I was like, well, that's not my point. That wasn't what I was trying to do. Like, I want to grow. I want to become better. I want to become, successful. And I understand that the way that happens is through exposure, and you can only be exposed to what you can see. And if you're enclosed in this wall, you can't see it. You can't see anyone. You can't see anything. You only may have a glimpse, but you can't see them, and they can't see you. So you're shutting yourself off to the possibilities of opportunity, to possibilities of mentorship, to possibilities of growth, of light, of hope. And that's where I got stuck. I was like, well, what do I do? How do I navigate this space? Do I just risk being hurt all the time in order to grow? Do I just risk being mistreated? Do I risk people using me? Do I risk people not being honest? Do I just risk that because I want to grow? Like, is that what I do? Because that doesn't seem logical. And it wasn't. This actually happened recently, that I heard this, where I heard Dr. Anita Phillips say, replace those walls with boundaries. And I was like, what? Because by this time I wasn't thinking about walls. I was like, I don't know. The wall conversation had gone far from my mind. It wasn't on my mind anymore. And when I heard this, it brought me right back to that place of, you can't grow with these walls. And I was like, I don't have any walls. I'm thriving. I'm fine. I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, no, you still have walls. Replace those walls with boundaries. And I was like, but I do. I have boundaries. Like, these are my boundaries. Like, this is, and I began to realize I have a very unclear understanding of the difference between a wall and a boundary. And when I started to unpack this, because I'm emergent therapist, so we unpack everything. As I started to unpack this and realize, like, no, a wall and a boundary is definitely not the same thing, and it mostly differs in its makeup and in its purpose. And like, when I started to think about why and how my walls were built, like I said, they were built out of anger. They were built out of fear. They were built in a I'ma stop you before you try to get me sense of mentality, whereas boundaries are clear, and they are, set for a reason of, I want to be better, and I'm setting these boundaries around what I need to happen and the expectations, and I let people know, and I explain these boundaries, and it's a totally different thing. And a lot of times with walls, we don't even tell people we have them up. People just kind of have to figure it out, or they'll ask you, or they're feeling some type of way, and we get an attitude because we like, that's your problem, like, but that's not effective communication, right? So when you're talking about boundaries, like, and you're looking at walls, that can't be a boundary, because a wall doesn't explain it. Like, a boundary sets the expectation and explains the expectation, and in certain ways that's healthy, right? So it's in the blog post too, but there are different types of boundaries, and they're not all healthy. And a lot of times people struggle with setting healthier boundaries, and we have rigid boundaries, porous boundaries, and then healthy boundaries. And the truth is that most people have a mixture of both. The rigid boundaries are like those very, I'm not going to attach to anybody. That's a wall. the rigid boundary is a wall. It's like the wall where I'm like, I'm not attaching to anybody. I'm going to be stuck like this. I'm not moving, you know. And then the porous boundary is just open to anything and anybody. Is like, I'm going to tell you everything because this is just, you know. But when we can get a more balanced sense of awareness and a more balanced sense of, I know when this is appropriate and I know who I can be more porous with and who I need to be more rigid with. It doesn't mean be all the way extreme, but find a healthier balance in that. Yeah, so it's just like when I was going through that and realizing all of those things, it just kind of, it helped me to figure out where to go next. I was like, okay, I'm stuck here, but I know where I need to go. I just need to figure out how to get there. And when I was looking at that, and when I was trying to break down what Dr. Anita said, and she's like, instead of, you know, your walls, replace them with boundaries. So it let me know, like, you don't have to just be out here in the open, like, because that's where my mindset was. It's like, if I don't have these walls, then I'm just out here for anybody to get or anything. And it's just like, no, that doesn't have to be the case. Like, you can set healthy boundaries around your life, around your time, around your body, around your materials, around your emotions, around your intellect. You set boundaries around these things so that people know what to expect. People know you can't just come to me talking like, you know, about negative things all the time. Like, I mean, yes, I'm an emergent therapist, and it's like, yes, that's my job. But outside of work, like, I'm a very optimistic person, and it's just like, I'm not one to sit in negativity for a long time. So it's like, that's one of my boundaries. It's like, yes, you can tell me what's going on with you, but we're not gonna sit in this for a long time. And then, like, physical boundaries, you set those. You say, well, no, I'm not, you know, people that have strict diets, and they're like, you know, this is my boundary. I'm not gonna eat this or that. That's their boundary. And, you know, we have to respect that. And we have to, when you set those and you say, this is what I mean, and you let people know, like, this is me, this is my life, this is how I'm going about it. I'm just letting you know. And then, like I said, intellect is like what I think, and like I hold so highly, like, my ideas and the things and the thoughts. I'm very sensitive about, like, those things, and it's like, so I don't share them with everybody. That's an intellectual boundary. I don't share, like, my goals and aspirations with everybody, because if you risk them not understanding it and not handling it properly, and you're still in that sensitive space. So instead of building up a wall and saying, I'm just not going to tell nobody, it's like, no, it's just a very few amount of people that I feel like I'm safe to share this with, where I have a mentor, or I have close friends, I have family, I have spouse that I trust enough to share this with. Yeah. And then, like, another very important one to me is a time boundary. It's the limit that I set for myself about my time. My time is very important to me. It is. I try to set it in a way that's productive, but also in a way that's not overly stressful. I try to set it in a way that I'm like, I know I can be productive, but if something hits the fan, I'm not freaking out because my kids got to stay home and now I can't get this done or get that done. It's like learning that I can be flexible. I can be a bit more flexible in these boundaries. It's like, yes, this is my boundary of time, but I know that it's not appropriate when my kids are sick. You know, walls don't do that. Walls don't allow you to understand the appropriateness of something, where as boundaries do. So I hope this was helpful. Again, I have a blog post on it that's kind of more in depth of the types of boundaries and the different ways that we look at boundaries. And I think next week we'll kind of go briefly into how to set boundaries. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.